My beloved soul, something is happening to you right now and it's not what you think. That strange feeling of disconnection, that quiet distance you can't explain, that sudden loss of interest in things you once loved, it is not a coincidence. It is not weakness. And it is definitely not something to ignore. In fact, what you are experiencing is so rare, so profound, that most people go their entire lives without ever recognizing it. You were not meant to stumble upon this message. You were led here because the truth is something has shifted in your spirit. A silent awakening has begun, and it's pulling you away from everything that no longer aligns with your true purpose. That's why conversations feel empty. That's why certain people feel unfamiliar. That's why even your own thoughts sometimes feel distant, like you're observing your life instead of living it. But here is what may shock you the most: this disconnection is not a loss. It is a divine separation. In this very moment, Archangel Michael is working behind the scenes, cutting away energies, attachments, and influences that have quietly been draining your spirit. Things you tolerated before you can no longer tolerate now. Situations you once accepted now feel unbearable, and you don't fully understand why. It's because your soul has outgrown them. You see, when heaven prepares you for something greater, it doesn't always feel like a blessing at first. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. But it's not falling apart. It's being rearranged. There are connections in your life that were never meant to go where you're going next. There are environments that cannot hold the version of you that is emerging. And instead of forcing you to leave abruptly, the divine gently shifts your feelings. It creates distance. It creates discomfort. It creates that quiet disconnection, so you naturally begin to pull away. And here's the part many people miss: this is protection. Right now, you may be questioning yourself. You may be wondering, why don't I feel the same anymore? Or what's wrong with me? But nothing is wrong with you. In fact, something is finally right. Because your spirit is waking up. And when your spirit wakes up, it refuses to stay in places where it once slept. That's why you feel different. That's why things feel off. That's why your energy no longer matches the spaces you're in. You are not losing yourself, you are shedding a version of yourself that was never meant to last. And yes, it can feel unsettling. It can feel like you're drifting, like you're losing control, like you don't fully belong anywhere anymore. But that feeling, that exact feeling, is the doorway to transformation. Because before you step into your true alignment, there is always a moment where everything feels uncertain. That moment is now. And even though it feels like silence, you are not alone in this. Archangel Michael is closer to you than ever, guiding this transition, protecting your energy, and preparing you for something your current environment could never sustain. So don't rush to fix this feeling. Don't try to force things back to how they were. And don't mistake this divine disconnection for failure. This is your awakening. This is your separation. And this is only the beginning of what's about to unfold. Tell me when you're ready, and I will continue deeper into what's really being removed from your life. Something within you has been quietly changing for a while now, long before you had the words to describe it. It didn't happen all at once. There was no loud moment, no clear turning point. Instead, it crept in slowly, almost unnoticeably. A conversation that once excited you began to feel heavy. A place that once felt like home started to feel unfamiliar. Even laughter began to sound different, like an echo from a version of yourself you no longer fully recognize. This is the silent separation. And the reason you didn't notice it at first is because it doesn't announce itself. It works beneath the surface, shifting your energy, adjusting your awareness, and slowly pulling you out of alignment with anything that no longer belongs in your future. You may have tried to ignore it. You may have told yourself you were just tired, or stressed, or going through a phase. But deep down, there was a knowing something wasn't the same anymore. What you are feeling is not emotional burnout. It's not simply exhaustion from life. There is something much deeper taking place. Emotional burnout drains you, but this redirects you. It creates a distance that feels intentional, even if you don't understand the intention yet. There are moments now where you sit with people and feel completely alone. Not because they've changed, but because you have. Your spirit is no longer resonating at the same level. The connection that once felt effortless now requires energy. And the more you try to force it, the more unnatural it feels. This is where many people become confused. They think something is wrong with their relationships, or they begin to blame themselves for feeling distant. But what's actually happening is a form of spiritual detachment. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Archangel Michael is guiding you through a process that most people resist. A process where certain bonds begin to loosen, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because where you are being led next requires a different version of you, one that cannot carry everything from the past. And here is the truth that can be difficult to accept: not everyone is meant to go with you. Some people were only assigned to a chapter, not the entire story. Some environments were only meant to hold you temporarily, not permanently. And when your spirit begins to elevate, those connections naturally begin to fade, not because they are bad, but because they are no longer aligned. You may notice that you're speaking less. You're explaining yourself less. You're choosing silence over engagement. It's not that you don't care, it's that your energy is being preserved for something greater. Something that requires clarity, focus, and inner strength. This is also why familiar routines feel empty. Things you once did without thinking now feel meaningless. You go through the motions, but there's no depth, no connection, no fulfillment. It's as if your soul is quietly whispering, "This is not where you belong anymore." And yet, there's a part of you that hesitates. A part of you that wonders if you should try harder, reconnect, go back to how things were. But every time you attempt that, something inside you resists. Not aggressively, but firmly. Like a gentle force pulling you away, reminding you that you cannot return to a version of life that no longer fits who you are becoming. This is divine protection in motion. Because sometimes, what feels like loss is actually the removal of limitations. What feels like distance is actually space being created for something new. And what feels like disconnection is actually alignment happening behind the scenes. Archangel Michael is not removing things from your life to leave you empty. He is clearing space so you are not overcrowded when the right people, the right opportunities, and the right path begins to reveal itself. You are being repositioned, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels lonely, even if it feels uncertain. This silent separation is not here to break you, but is here to prepare you. And the more you begin to accept it instead of resisting it, the clearer everything will become. Listen closely, because what you are about to understand will change the way you see everything that has been happening to you. This disconnection, you feel it didn't just appear. It was triggered by an energy shift so powerful that your entire inner world had to adjust to it. Something elevated within you, something unseen but undeniable. And the moment that shift occurred, your old life could no longer hold you the same way. That's why everything feels different now. You are not imagining it. You are not overthinking it. Your energy has changed, and because of that, everything around you is responding differently. The places, the people, the habits, even your own reactions, they all feel slightly out of sync. It's like trying to fit into a space that once felt perfect, but now feels too small for who you've become. This is what happens when your spirit begins to upgrade. There are moments when you catch yourself pulling away without even trying. Conversations feel shallow when they once felt meaningful. Noise becomes overwhelming when you once thrived in it. You crave silence, clarity, and truth in a way you never did before. And you may not understand why, but deep inside, you know there is no going back. Because the version of you that existed before this shift no longer exists. Archangel Michael has stepped in during this transition, cutting energetic cords that once kept you tied to things that were comfortable but no longer correct. These cords were invisible, yet powerful, attachments to people, patterns, and environments that once defined your reality. And now, they are being severed. This is why you feel lighter in some moments and deeply unsettled in others. Because while your spirit is rising, your human side is trying to understand what is being left behind. There is a tension between where you were and where you are being called to go. And that tension creates discomfort. But hidden within that discomfort is something extraordinary. You are outgrowing your old identity. You are stepping into a higher level of awareness, where you can no longer pretend, no longer ignore, no longer settle. Things that once felt acceptable now feel draining. Situations that once made sense now feel confusing. And people you once connected with now feel distant, even if they haven't changed at all. Because the truth is you have. This is one of the clearest signs that you are evolving spiritually. When your environment begins to feel unfamiliar, it's not because you are lost. It's because you are no longer meant to stay where you are. There is a new alignment forming in your life. But before it fully arrives, everything that doesn't match it must fall away. That's why this phase feels so intense. You are standing in between two versions of your life. The one you are leaving behind, and the one that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. And in this in-between space, nothing feels stable. But this space is sacred, because it is here that transformation happens. Archangel Michael is not only removing what no longer serves you, but also protecting you from reconnecting with it. You may have noticed that even when you try to go back, something blocks it. Plans fall through. Conversations don't flow. The energy just doesn't feel right. That is not coincidence. That is divine intervention. Because what is ahead of you requires a version of you that is fully aligned, fully aware, and no longer tied to the past. And even though you may not see it yet, there are blessings forming in the background, opportunities, connections, and breakthroughs that will match the energy you are stepping into. But first, the old must be cleared. So if you've been feeling disconnected, distant, or unsure of where you belong, understand this. You are not being pushed away. You are being pulled forward. And this shift, as uncomfortable as it may feel, is a sign that something greater is already in motion. Now, if this message is reaching you at the exact moment you needed it, do something powerful. Type "I align with my higher path" in the comments if you feel this shift happening within you. Blessing code 639 is now activated over your life. And as this truth settles into your spirit, hear this clearly: when you choose to support messages like this, you are not just helping a video, you are helping light reach someone who is lost in darkness, someone who is searching for clarity just like you were. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is that moment where your seed becomes someone else's breakthrough. If you feel it in your heart, You can send your offering through the Super Thanks button or through PayPal, with a link placed in the description and the QR code shown in this space. This is not just a donation. It is a prophetic act of alignment. As you give, may doors open for you that no man can shut, and may the same light guiding you now multiply in your life. Step into this moment with faith and act. There is a moment in every true spiritual awakening that feels like this: quiet, unfamiliar, and deeply isolating. Not because you have been abandoned, but because you are being set apart. And this is the part many people misunderstand. The loneliness you feel right now is not a punishment. It is an initiation. It may not feel that way. It may feel like distance, like silence, like no one truly understands what is happening inside you. You may look around and see people continuing their lives as normal, laughing, connecting, moving forward, while you feel like you've stepped into a completely different reality. One where everything is quieter, heavier, and harder to explain. But this space you are in, it has a purpose. Because before you can fully hear your true direction, the noise around you has to fade. There were voices in your life that once influenced your decisions, opinions that shaped your choices, expectations that quietly guided your path. And while some of those voices meant well, they were not aligned with where you are being led now. So what happens? The connection to those voices begins to weaken, and suddenly, you are left with yourself. This is where the discomfort begins. Because being alone with your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own truth, it requires a level of honesty that most people avoid. There are no distractions here, no easy escapes, just you and what is real, and that can feel overwhelming. But this is also where something powerful begins to happen. Your inner voice becomes clearer. That quiet sense of knowing, the one you used to ignore or doubt, begins to rise. It speaks more boldly now, more directly. It shows you things you didn't want to see before. It reveals truths that may feel uncomfortable, but necessary. And guiding you through this process is Archangel Michael, strengthening your spirit in ways you may not even realize yet. Not by removing the silence, but by using it. Not by filling the emptiness, but by transforming it into clarity. Because this season of solitude is not here to break you. It is here to rebuild you. There are parts of your identity that were shaped by others, by their approval, their presence, their expectations. And now, those parts are being stripped away. Not violently, but intentionally. So that what remains is real, unshaken, and aligned with your true purpose. This is why going back feels so difficult. You may have tried to reconnect, to return to what was familiar, to fill the silence with the same people or the same routines. But something doesn't allow it to feel right anymore. The connection feels forced. The energy feels off. And deep down, you know it's not where you're meant to be. This is not rejection. This is redirection. Because if you were constantly surrounded by noise, by opinions, by distractions, you would never fully step into the clarity that is waiting for you. You would continue to live a version of life that felt comfortable, but not true. And you are no longer meant for that. The loneliness you feel is not a sign that something is missing. It is a sign that something is being created. A stronger connection with yourself. A deeper understanding of your path. A clearer sense of what belongs in your life and what doesn't. And yes, it may feel like you don't belong anywhere right now. Like you're in between worlds. Not fully connected to your past, but not yet grounded in your future. But that space is temporary. It is a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And even in this silence, even in this loneliness, you are not truly alone. Archangel Michael is present in this space, guarding your mind, protecting your energy, and guiding your transformation. You may not hear it loudly, but you can feel it in the moments of stillness, in the moments of clarity, in the quiet strength that is beginning to rise within you. So don't run from this feeling. Don't rush to fill the silence. And don't mistake this sacred isolation for abandonment. Because what you are experiencing right now is necessary. You are being prepared. And when this phase begins to lift, when clarity replaces confusion, when connection returns in a new and aligned way, you will understand why this time alone was so important. Until then, trust the process. Even if it feels unfamiliar, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels like you're walking this path by yourself, you are not alone. You are being guided. There is a truth unfolding in your life right now that may feel uncomfortable to accept, but it is necessary for your growth. The people you feel yourself drifting away from, the ones who no longer feel aligned, the ones you no longer connect with the same way, their distance is not accidental. It is purposeful. You may have shared history with them. You may have built memories, laughter, and moments that once felt unbreakable. And because of that, this shift can feel confusing, even painful. You might find yourself questioning, why is this happening? Or did I do something wrong? But the answer is deeper than anything you could have said or done. You are evolving. And not everyone is meant to evolve with you. This is one of the hardest parts of spiritual alignment, because it requires you to see people not just through emotion, but through truth. Some individuals were placed in your life for a specific season, a specific lesson, or a specific moment of growth. They were never meant to stay forever. But when the season ends, the connection begins to change. It doesn't always end with conflict. In fact, many times, it ends in silence. Conversations become shorter. Effort becomes one-sided. The energy that once flowed naturally begins to feel forced. And slowly, without a clear explanation, the bond begins to fade. This is not a failure. This is completion. Archangel Michael is actively guarding your destiny circle right now. He is allowing only those who align with your future to remain, and gently removing those who cannot go where you are being led. Not because they are bad, but because they are not assigned to the next chapter of your life. And this is where your strength is being tested. Because it's easy to hold on. It's easy to try to fix, to explain, to reconnect, to bring things back to how they were. But every time you try, you feel it. That resistance, that discomfort, that quiet knowing that something has changed. That is your spirit speaking. And it is asking you to let go. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with understanding. Because the people who are leaving your life served a purpose. They were a part of your journey. They helped shape who you are today. But their role had been fulfilled. And holding on beyond that point only creates tension, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. You may feel moments of sadness. That is natural. You may miss who they were to you, or what the connection used to feel like. But you must also recognize what the connection feels like now. Because that truth matters. There is a difference between someone being assigned to your life and someone simply being familiar. And right now, you are being called to release what is familiar in order to receive what is aligned. This is not easy. It requires you to trust something you cannot fully see yet. It requires you to believe that the space being created in your life is not emptiness, but preparation. That new connections, deeper relationships, and more meaningful alignments are already forming, even if they haven't appeared yet. And this is where faith becomes essential. Because what you are losing is not as important as what you are making room for. Archangel Michael is not just removing people, he is protecting your energy from being tied to cycles that no longer serve you. There are conversations you no longer need to have. There are dynamics you no longer need to navigate. There are expectations you are no longer meant to carry. You are being freed, even if it feels like loss at first. And as this process continues, you will begin to notice something subtle but powerful. You will feel a sense of peace in places where there used to be tension. You will feel clarity where there used to be confusion. And slowly, you will begin to understand why certain people had to step away. Because they were never meant to walk the path you are now stepping into. So do not chase what is leaving. Do not force what is fading. And do not question your worth because someone is no longer present in your life. Instead, honor the role they played. Appreciate what they brought into your journey. And then, with quiet strength, release them. Because where you are going requires space. And that space is being created for a reason. There is something happening around you that you cannot fully see it, you can feel its effects. It shows up as confusion without a clear cause, heaviness without a clear reason, and moments where your energy suddenly drops even when nothing outward has changed. You may have blamed stress, overthinking, or exhaustion. But what if there is something deeper at work? What if this disconnection you've been feeling is not just internal but part of a hidden battle? Because the truth is, whenever you begin to rise spiritually, whenever you begin to detach from what no longer aligns, there is resistance. Not always visible, not always obvious, but present. And that resistance often tries to confuse you before it can ever confront you. It whispers doubt into your clarity. It tries to make you question your growth. It attempts to pull your focus back to what you are being called away from. This is why some days feel heavier than others. You wake up with a sense of purpose, only to feel drained hours later. You gain clarity, only to suddenly feel uncertain again. It's like a push and pull, a tension between two directions, one pulling you forward, and one trying to keep you where you were. This is not random. This is spiritual warfare at a subtle level. But here is what you must understand clearly: you are not under attack because you are weak. You are facing resistance because you are becoming stronger. The moment you started to outgrow your old patterns, your old connections, and your old identity, you stepped into a higher level of awareness. And with that awareness comes the responsibility to protect your energy, your thoughts, and your direction. Because not everything that enters your mind deserves to stay there. There are thoughts that are not aligned with who you are becoming. There are emotions that are being amplified to distract you. There are moments of confusion that are designed to slow you down, to make you hesitate, to make you doubt the path that is unfolding before you. And this is where your awareness becomes your power. Because once you recognize that not every feeling is truth, you begin to take back control. You stop reacting to every emotion. You stop believing every doubt. You begin to observe instead of absorb. And standing beside you in this unseen battle is Archangel Michael, your protector, your defender, your guide through the confusion. His presence is not always loud, but it is constant. He shields you in ways you may never fully realize, blocking what you cannot see, redirecting what could harm you, strengthening you when you feel at your weakest. But protection also requires participation. You cannot continue to entertain what is meant to be released. You cannot keep revisiting thoughts, people, or situations that your spirit has already outgrown. Because every time you go back mentally, you reopen doors that were meant to close. You give energy to what is trying to keep you stuck. And this is where many people unknowingly delay their own progress. They feel the shift, but they resist it. They recognize the disconnection, but they try to fix it. They sense the change, but they question it instead of trusting it. And in doing so, they remain in a cycle that was meant to end. But you are beginning to see it differently now. You are starting to realize that not everything you lose is meant to be recovered. Not every connection is meant to be repaired. Not every feeling is meant to be followed. Some things are meant to be released completely, because your peace depends on it. This hidden battle is not about fighting harder. It is about standing firmer. It is about choosing alignment over attachment. It is about protecting your energy like it matters, because it does. And as you begin to do this, something powerful starts to happen. The confusion weakens. The heaviness lifts. The clarity returns. Not all at once, but gradually, steadily. As you stop feeding what drains you and start focusing on what strengthens you. Archangel Michael is guiding you through this process, not just as a protector, but as a teacher, showing you how to stand in your authority, how to trust your discernment, and how to move forward without fear. So when those moments of doubt come, observe them, but do not accept them. When confusion tries to cloud your mind, pause, but do not retreat. And when you feel that pull back to what you've outgrown, remember why you had to leave in the first place. Because this battle is not here to stop you. It is here to reveal how powerful you truly are becoming. There is a version of you that is quietly fading away, and the reason it feels so uncomfortable is because you spent so much time becoming that version. You built your habits around it. You shaped your personality around it. You learned how to survive, connect, and exist within that identity. And now, without warning, it no longer feels like you. This is where the confusion deepens. Because it's one thing to lose connection with people or places, but it's something entirely different to feel disconnected from yourself. You may find yourself asking, why don't I feel like me anymore? Or who am I becoming? And the truth is, you are standing in the middle of an identity shift, a transformation that requires you to release who you were in order to become who you are meant to be. And that process is not comfortable, because your old identity was familiar. It knew how to respond. It knew how to fit in. It knew how to navigate the environments you were once part of. But the new version of you is still forming. It doesn't fully know its place yet. It doesn't have all the answers. It moves differently, thinks differently, and feels differently. And because of that, you feel uncertain. You feel like you don't fully belong to your past anymore, but you're not fully grounded in your future either. This in-between space can feel unsettling. It can make you question your confidence, your direction, even your purpose. But what you are experiencing is not a loss of identity. It is a rebirth. Archangel Michael is guiding you through this transformation, helping you shed layers that no longer reflect your truth. These layers were not necessarily wrong. They were necessary for time. They helped you learn, adapt, and grow. But they were never meant to define your final form. And now, they are being removed. You may notice that things you once enjoyed no longer excite you. The way you used to speak, react, or engage with others no longer feels natural. Even your goals may be shifting. What once felt important now feels empty, and what once felt distant now feels deeply meaningful. This is not confusion. This is clarity emerging through change. Because when your identity begins to align with your higher purpose, everything that doesn't match it begins to fall away. And that includes behaviors, mindsets, and even beliefs that once felt like part of who you were. There are patterns you can no longer repeat. There are roles you can no longer play. There are expectations you can no longer meet. And while that may feel like pressure at first, it is actually freedom. You are no longer being asked to perform a version of yourself that was shaped by survival, approval, or external validation. You are being called to step into authenticity, into a version of yourself that is real, aligned, and unshaken by the need to fit into spaces that no longer serve you. But authenticity requires courage, because it often means standing alone before you stand fully aligned. It means trusting who you are becoming before the world recognizes it. It means letting go of certainty in exchange for truth. And this is where many people hesitate. They feel the shift, but they try to hold on to their old identity because it feels safer. It feels known. It feels easier than stepping into something undefined. But every time you try to go back, you feel it. That resistance, the discomfort, that quiet voice reminding you that you cannot return to who you were. Because you are not that person anymore. And you were never meant to stay that person. Archangel Michael is not asking you to have everything figured out right now. He is asking you to trust the process of becoming. To allow the old identity to fall away without trying to rebuild it. To sit in the unfamiliar without rushing to define it. Because what is forming within you is far greater than what you are leaving behind. There is a stronger version of you emerging, one that is more aware, more aligned, and more connected to your true purpose. But that version requires space to develop, space that can only be created when the old identity is fully released. So if you feel like you don't recognize yourself right now, take that as a sign of growth, not loss. If you feel uncertain about who you are becoming, take that as a sign that transformation is happening. And if you feel like everything familiar is slipping away, understand that it is making room for something far more authentic to take its place. You are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself for the first time. There comes a moment in your journey when everything seems to pause, not completely, but enough for you to notice. The momentum you once had slowed down. The clarity you once felt becomes quiet. The direction you thought you understood suddenly feels uncertain. And in that stillness, you begin to wonder if something has gone wrong. But what if this pause is not a problem? What if it is a reset? Because what you are experiencing right now is not rejection. It is not delay. It is not failure. It is a divine reset, an intentional slowing down of everything that once defined your pace, so that something deeper can be realigned within you. You may feel like you are in between movements, not fully where you are but not yet where you are going. Plans may feel unclear. Motivation may come and go. Even your sense of direction may feel like it's fading. But this is not emptiness. This is recalibration. Because when your life begins to shift at a spiritual level, everything external must adjust to match it. And that adjustment requires space. It requires stillness. It requires a temporary disconnection from the constant movement you were once used to. This is why things feel slower. This is why answers are not coming as quickly. This is why you feel like you are waiting even though you don't fully know what you are waiting for. And this is where trust becomes essential. Because this phase is not about doing more. It is about surrendering more. Surrendering the need to control every outcome. Surrendering the pressure to have everything figured out. Surrendering the urge to rush into decisions just to escape the discomfort of uncertainty. Because the truth is moving too quickly right now would take you out of alignment. Archangel Michael is working within this pause, preparing what you cannot yet see. Aligning circumstances. Clearing unseen obstacles. Positioning people and opportunities that will meet you at the right moment, not before. And while this preparation is happening, you are being refined. Your patience is being strengthened. Your discernment is becoming sharper. Your ability to trust without immediate proof is growing. These are not small things. These are the foundations of the next level of your life. Because where you are going requires more than just desire. It requires alignment. and alignment cannot be rushed. It must be built carefully, intentionally, and in perfect timing. This is why you are being asked to slow down, not because you are stuck, but because you are being positioned. You may look around and see others moving forward quickly, achieving, progressing, advancing. And a part of you may wonder why your path feels different right now. But what you cannot see is that your journey is being handled with precision. There are things being prevented that you don't even know about. There are paths being closed that would have led to confusion. There are delays that are actually protection. And in this reset, you are being given something rare, the opportunity to realign fully before you move forward. Because once things begin to flow again, they will move with clarity, purpose, and strength. But for that to happen, everything within you must be grounded first. So do not resist this pause. Do not fill it with distractions just to avoid the stillness. And do not mistake this reset for a setback, because this is where your life is quietly being restructured. Archangel Michael is guiding this process with intention, ensuring that what comes next is not only right for you, but sustainable for your growth. You are not being forgotten. You are not being left behind. You are being prepared with care, with precision, and with purpose. And as this truth settles into your spirit, respond to this moment. Type "I trust the divine timing" if you feel this reset unfolding in your life. Blessing code 8421 is now being released over your path. And as you stand in this sacred pause, understand this: when you choose to support the spread of messages like this, you are stepping into alignment with something greater than yourself. You become a vessel through which light reaches those who are still lost in confusion. The word declares that when you sow, you will also reap in abundance, and this is that moment where your obedience unlocks someone else's clarity. If your spirit is moved, release your seed through Super Thanks or through PayPal, where the link is waiting in the description and the QR code is placed within reach. This is not just giving, it is participation in a divine assignment. As you act, may your life receive overflow, unexpected favor, and doors that open without resistance. Step forward now and respond without hesitation. There is a quiet warning moving through your life right now, not loud, not forceful, but persistent. It doesn't come as fear, it comes as a feeling, a sense that something is no longer right, a knowing that something must change. And even though you may try to push it aside, it keeps returning. This is not anxiety. This is awareness. Because when you are being guided into a higher level of alignment, you are also being shown what no longer belongs. And that awareness comes with responsibility. A responsibility to respond, to choose differently, and to stop holding on to what your spirit has already outgrown. But here is where the danger lies: you can feel the shift and still resist it. You can recognize the disconnection and still try to force reconnection. You can know something is ending and still fight to keep it alive. And in doing so, you delay your own transformation. Because the longer you hold on to what is meant to be released, the heavier it becomes. What once felt manageable starts to feel exhausting. What once brought comfort begins to create tension. And slowly, what you are trying to save begins to drain you. This is the warning, not in words but in experience. You may have already felt it. That moment when you walk into a space and your energy immediately drops. That conversation that feels forced no matter how hard you try. That situation that leaves you feeling unsettled, even after it ends. These are not random reactions. They are signals. Signals that you are no longer aligned. And ignoring these signals comes at a cost. Because every time you override your inner knowing, you create confusion within yourself. You weaken your trust in your own discernment. You begin to second guess what you feel, even when it is clear. And over time, the disconnection from your truth becomes deeper than the disconnection you originally felt. This is why awareness must lead to action. Archangel Michael is not only guiding you toward what is right, he is also warning you about what is no longer right. But his guidance does not force. It reveals. It nudges. It shows you through feeling, through experience, through repetition. And if the same discomfort keeps appearing, it is not something to ignore. It is something to understand. Because repetition is not coincidence. It is confirmation. You may notice patterns repeating in different forms. Different people, but the same feeling. Different situations, but the same outcome. This is not because nothing is changing. It is because something is trying to be learned. And until it is acknowledged, it will continue. This is where your choice becomes powerful. You can either continue to move in circles, revisiting what no longer aligns, hoping it will feel different this time, or you can choose to break the cycle. But breaking the cycle requires courage. It requires you to walk away without full closure. It requires you to trust your inner knowing even when others don't understand it. It requires you to choose peace over familiarity. And that is not always easy. Because familiarity feels safe, even when it is no longer healthy. But you must remember, comfort is not always alignment. Sometimes, comfort is just something you have grown used to. And what you are being called into now is not comfort. It is truth. Archangel Michael is strengthening your ability to recognize this truth, to stand in it, and to act on it without hesitation. Because where you are going requires clarity, not confusion. It requires alignment, not attachment. And every time you choose to listen to that quiet warning, you move closer to that alignment. Every time you honor what you feel instead of ignoring it, you strengthen your path. Every time you release what is no longer right, you create space for what is. So if something in your life keeps feeling off, if something keeps straining your energy, if something keeps pulling you back into confusion, do not ignore it. Do not justify it. Do not delay it. Because that warning you feel is not there to scare you. It is there to guide you. And the moment you choose to listen, everything begins to change. There is a truth about your pain that you may not have realized yet, something so powerful that once you see it clearly, everything you have been going through will begin to make sense in a completely different way. Your pain is not just something to endure. It is something designed to transform you. Right now, the discomfort you feel, the confusion, the emotional heaviness, the sense of disconnection, it all carries a purpose deeper than what appears on the surface. It is not random. It is not meaningless. And it is not something that came into your life without reason. It is a doorway. But here is what makes it difficult. Doorways like this rarely look inviting. They don't appear as opportunities. They don't feel like blessings. Instead, they show up as moments you wish you could avoid, emotions you wish you didn't have to face, and situations you wish never happened. And because of that, the natural response is to resist, to push the pain away, to distract yourself from it, to try to return to a version of life where things felt easier, lighter, more certain. But every time you do that, the pain doesn't disappear. It lingers. It waits. It finds its way back, asking to be acknowledged. Because pain that is ignored does not dissolve. It deepens. And yet, pain that is understood begins to transform. This is where your breakthrough is hidden. Not in escaping what you feel, but in facing it with awareness. There are lessons within your discomfort that cannot be learned any other way. Lessons about your boundaries. Lessons about your worth. Lessons about what you truly need versus what you have been settling for. And while these lessons may feel intense, They are shaping you into someone who will no longer accept what is misaligned. That is power. You may have already noticed it in small ways. A situation that once would have broken you now only unsettles you. A behavior you once tolerated now feels unacceptable. A pattern you once repeated now feels impossible to continue. This is growth. It may not feel like it, because growth is often quiet and internal. It doesn't always come with immediate relief or visible change. But it is happening, steadily, beneath everything you are experiencing. Archangel Michael is present in this process, not removing the pain instantly, but using it to refine you, strengthening your spirit, sharpening your discernment, teaching you how to stand in your truth without wavering. Because the version of you that is emerging from this is not the same version that entered it. You are becoming stronger, not in a way that hardens you, but in a way that grounds you, in a way that allows you to feel deeply, but not be controlled by what you feel, in a way that allows you to care, but not lose yourself in the process. And this is where the breakthrough begins. It doesn't arrive as a sudden moment where everything changes overnight. It begins the moment you stop running from what you feel and start understanding why you feel it. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift in perspective changes everything. Because now, the pain is no longer your enemy. It becomes your guide. You begin to see patterns you didn't notice before. You begin to understand decisions that once confused you. You begin to recognize how every moment of discomfort was leading you toward a deeper awareness of yourself and your path. And slowly, something inside you starts to settle. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting what is meant to shape you. Archangel Michael is walking with you through this transformation, ensuring that what feels like an ending is actually a beginning of clarity, a beginning of strength, a beginning of a life that is aligned with who you truly are. So do not underestimate what you are going through. Do not dismiss your pain as something to simply get past, because within it is the very breakthrough you have been searching for. And the more you allow it to teach you, the closer you move toward the life that has been waiting for you all along. There comes a moment after all the confusion, after all the disconnection, after all the quiet battles you've been fighting within yourself, when something shifts again. But this time, it feels different. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel unsurreal. It feels clear. Not all at once. Not in a loud or overwhelming way, but gently, steadily, like light beginning to break through after a long night. This is the moment where everything starts making sense. You begin to look back at everything you've been through, the distance, the loneliness, the loss, the confusion, and instead of questioning it, you begin to understand it. The pieces start connecting. The patterns reveal themselves. And suddenly, what once felt like chaos begins to feel like a carefully guided path. You realize that the disconnection you feared was protection. The relationships that faded were not meant to follow you into your next chapter. The silence you struggled with was teaching you how to hear your own truth. And the pain you resisted was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more aligned than you have ever been before. This is clarity. And clarity does not come from forcing answers. It comes from allowing the process to unfold without resistance. It comes from trusting even when you don't fully understand. And now, because you stayed through the discomfort, because you didn't give up in the middle of uncertainty, you are beginning to see why it all had to happen this way. There is a peace entering your spirit now, a quiet confidence that does not need validation. A sense of knowing that does not need explanation. You are no longer chasing answers the way you once did. You are no longer trying to control every outcome. because something within you has settled. You trust the path, even if it is still unfolding. Archangel Michael has been guiding you through every stage of this journey, even when you couldn't see it clearly. Through every moment of doubt, through every feeling of disconnection, through every difficult realization, there was a purpose being fulfilled. And now, that purpose is becoming visible. You may begin to notice that your reactions are different. Situations that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. People who once influenced your emotions no longer hold that power. You feel more centered, more aware, more in control of your own energy. This is not coincidence. This is growth realigned. You are no longer the same person who entered this phase of your life. You have changed in ways that cannot be undone. Your perspective is different. Your priorities are different. Your energy is different. And because of that, your path will now begin to reflect that change. New opportunities will start to appear. New connections will begin to form. A new clarity will continue to unfold. But this time, you will approach it all differently. Not from a place of uncertainty, but from a place of alignment. You will recognize what is right for you more quickly. You will walk away from what is not without hesitation. You will move forward with a sense of direction that feels natural, not forced. This is what happens when everything begins to make sense. It doesn't mean every question is answered. It means you no longer need every answer to feel at peace. And that is a powerful place to be. Because now, you are no longer reacting to life, you are moving with it. Archangel Michael is still guiding you, but now you are more aware of that guidance. You can feel it in your decisions. You can sense it in your direction. You can trust it in your spirit. And this trust is what will carry you forward. So when you look back at this phase of your life, you will no longer see it as a time of loss or confusion. You will see it as a turning point, a moment where everything changed, not around you but within you. And because of that change, your entire life began to realign in a way that finally makes sense. My dear soul, after everything you have felt, after every moment of confusion, every wave of disconnection, every silent question that echoed within you, there is something you must hear now. Something that will settle your spirit in a way nothing else has. You were never abandoned. Not for a single moment. Even when it felt like everything was falling apart, even when you felt distant from yourself, from others, from the life you once understood, there was a divine order unfolding beneath it all. Every shift, every ending, every uncomfortable realization, it was all part of something greater than what your eyes could see at the time. You were being guided, carefully, intentionally, with a level of precision that your human mind could not fully comprehend in those moments of uncertainty. Because what felt like disconnect was actually protection. What felt like loss was actually redirection. What felt like silence was actually preparation. And now, as you stand at this point in your journey, something within you has changed. You are not searching the same way you were before. You are not questioning everything the same way. There is a calmness beginning to settle into your spirit, even if your outer world is still unfolding. That calmness is truth. It is the quiet confirmation that you made it through a phase that was never meant to break you, but to reveal you, to show you who you are beneath the noise, beneath the expectations, beneath the attachments that once defined you. And what has been revealed is strength and deeper awareness, a clearer connection to your own spirit. You may not have all the answers yet, and that's okay. You may still be stepping into what comes next, and that's okay too. Because you are no longer walking blindly. You are walking with understanding. You are moving with alignment. And most importantly, you are no longer resisting the process. Archangel Michael has been with you through it all. In every moment where you felt uncertain, he was guiding you. In every moment where you felt weak, he was strengthening you. In every moment where you felt alone, he was standing beside you, protecting your path and preparing your future. And he is still with you now. Nothing you went through was wasted. Every feeling had a purpose. Every ending had a reason. Every moment of disconnection was leading you closer to the truth of who you are and where you are meant to be. So release any remaining doubt. Release the need to go back. Release the fear of what comes next. Because you are not stepping into the unknown anymore. You are stepping into alignment. And from this point forward, things will begin to flow in a way that feels different. Not forced, not confusing, but natural, clear, right. You will begin to recognize what belongs in your life without hesitation. You will begin to feel peace in decisions that once would have overwhelmed you. You will begin to trust yourself in a way you never have before. This is your new beginning. Not loud, not rushed, but grounded and real. So take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel it, the shift, the clarity, the quiet confidence that is rising within you. Because this is what you were being prepared for all along. Now, if this message has touched something deep within your spirit, respond to it. Type "I am aligned with my purpose" in the comments. Blessing code 9099 is now released over your life. And as you receive this final truth, understand this sacred calling when you step forward to support messages like this. You are not just giving. You are becoming part of a divine movement that reaches souls standing exactly where you once stood. The word declares that when you sow into fertile ground, your harvest will overflow, and this message is that ground. If you feel this stirring inside you, say it within yourself. I am chosen to help carry this light. And act on it. Release your seed through Super Thanks or through PayPal, where the link is placed in every description, and the QR code is waiting for you in each video. This is not a simple act. It is a prophetic alignment with purpose. As you give, may your life be marked by increase, by open doors, and by divine favor that follows you without resistance. Step into obedience now and move without hesitation.